Team, welcome back to HUMN, and today we're going to be looking at Romanian deadlifts. So first up, the name, Romanian Deadlift. Where does that come from? It doesn't give us a big description of what this movement is. And so let's just set the scene with this. It is developed by a Romanian, Nico Vlad. He was a weightlifter. He was seen in Olympic halls before some of his big medals that he won at the Olympics. And he was doing this sort of deadlift movement, And this is where it became quite famous. It's a big movement developed to really sort of train your hamstrings, lower backs, and essentially you're pulling from the ground. The RDL is a hinging movement, and there are loads of different hinging movements within CrossFit. I always think about hinging movements with a big movement in the hip, little movement in the knee, all right? So it is movements where we are bending, we're folding, and we're taking a little bend in here, big bend in here. So things like deadlifts, kettlebell swings, and things like that are going to really promote this sort of drive in the back of our body. Different to things like a squat where you've got big flex here, you're going down. We are trying to train a lot more of the muscles on the back of our body. So with these RDLs, we're looking to train a hinging process. Why do an RDL? So RDLs are going to train all the muscles on the back of our body. So we're going to be looking at strengthening and lengthening our hamstrings. We're going to be looking at training our glutes and maintain a nice neutral spine through sort of rigidity through our torso, right? The muscles on our back, they're almost like the go muscles, the ones that drive us forward rather than the ones you can flex in the mirror, but they are those sort of longevity muscles, the ones that are going to keep us moving, all right? Pulling us nice and upright. So it's going to check in on our posture. It's going to help our Olympic lifts and pulling from the floor as well. So there's a good few reasons there to try and include these or add these into your training. If you're unfamiliar with deadlifts and you're starting out, it's a great way to start teaching this hinging pattern. So let's have a little look at diving into these RDLs. So to look at our RDLs and how to set those up, we're going to look at those things I talked about a minute ago. We're looking at a big bend or big flex in the hips, little bend in the knees. One of the key things to think in this RDL is pretty much keeping a vertical shin. So that's going to help us set up this position. We're going to look at driving our hips backwards, keeping our back flat, and remain in this nice vertical position with our shins. There's not a lot of movement in here, unlike a deadlift, where we may be getting a little bit lower down towards the ground. We are limited by our hamstring range, And we're going to try and make sure that we are keeping and feeling this nice long body neutral spine, So tips to try this without a barbell. You could just do some of those tips as you are. You're going hips back, shins vertical. To promote this upper back and keep it nice and flat, you can reach out in front of you. This allows you to really counterbalance, shooting your weight backwards, and you should feel this in your hamstrings. Don't go so far that your toes tip up. Keep your hands out in front. Squeeze your toes, squeeze your bum as you stand. We're looking to feel that in our hamstrings and our glutes. Maintaining a nice bit of length through our body or bracing our core is the key here as well. If we do relax our upper body, so if we weren't putting our arms out in front and we're just dropping our hands here and rounding, this is where we're going to feel it into our back. And we're going to start lifting with muscles around our back and flexing too much through there, which in this movement is not the aim. We're looking for length, neutral spine, and really trying to wham into those hammies and glutes. Now let's take that to the barbell. This bar is set up on the floor, and I really like to do these RDLs from the top down. Now that's a bit of a problem. The bar's on the floor. For me, it's relatively light. I can check in on my body while I'm getting it there, but this part of the lift, I'm not too concerned with for this motion. So a neutral grip just outside of the shoulders, thumbs are going round. I'm just going to hold on to this bar the best I can for now. Same rules apply. I'm going to keep my upper body nice and tight. I'm going to shoot my hips back and keep my shins vertical. All the while, I'm looking for that nice flat back. As I squeeze, I'm trying to feel that tension in my hamstrings, squeeze through my bum, and maintain a nice neutral spine. So let's break down a few elements of this lift that's going to set you up for success. We'll go from the top down. So head position. We want a nice neutral head. We don't want to, as we lift these bars, we don't want to crane our neck, looking up really high towards the ceiling. We want to make sure that our chin is slightly tucked and we're keeping that following our spine. So our head may look down towards the ground, slightly in front, and then standing tall to the top. We don't want to crane and pull ourselves into that top position. We want to stay nice and neutral, keeping our head attached to the body rather than trying to snap it off, pulling our head backwards. Shoulders, we're looking to hold a good position through our chest. We always think, or here, potentially this position, big chest. So we want our shoulders pulled back and a nice active position here. As long as we can hold and maintain this through that movement, keeping our body long, reaching through the shoulders, it's a pretty nice place to be. Grip, we've talked about, hands just outside of shoulders, somewhere you feel like you can hold and maintain grip of this weight. Now, this can be used as a grip exercise, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a grip exercise. You could do something to enhance the weight that you're lifting, target your hamstrings more and your grip less. Something like a mixed grip. This movement here just allows you to hold onto the bar with a little less pressure through the grip and a little bit more mechanics in your hand. So one hand over, one hand under. Definitely worth mixing this up, changing the way you do it, but this grip could be the tip to help you get a little bit more weight in those RDLs. You could also look at using lifting straps or anything that's going to help take your grip out of the equation if you'd rather train the muscles in your body rather than the grip in your hand. Know what you're trying to train, and then you can really focus on your grip from there. Hips, they have to be thrown back as far as we can. We're really trying to stretch behind us. Knees, we're looking for a little bend here. This maintains a nice vertical shin. And our foot patterning, we're keeping our feet in this RDL in some place that feels nice and powerful, probably underneath our hips or just inside of our shoulders. So in time training this movement, you might end up getting more range of motion in your hamstrings, more strength through that position, and an ability to load those weights up a little bit. As I said, the bar demonstrated here is on the floor, but a really nice way to train this is in something like a rack. If we were to add weight to this, setting up the position and starting from the top down really can help set our body and take a bit of stress out of our lower back. So we could do exactly the same movement out of the rack. We load it up, take a step forward, and we go as low as we feel like we can when we can hold and maintain form, standing and squeezing tall to the top. This top-down approach can really help us set and maintain those great positions and load up a little bit more than if we're taking it from the floor every time. So using a rack's a great tool to start practicing these RDLs. It can really set yourself up for success as you go into this lifting pattern and take it into your training. It might not be a way of you doing this for time or in fast workouts, but it's definitely going to be a movement that could help excel your cleans, your deadlifts, help your kettlebell swings, snatches, and other movements like that. So progressing our RDLs could be something like progressive overload. We could look at introducing more load to this weight as we go through. We could look at increasing our range of motion. Some of the more flexible people out there, you may tap the ground straight away, and you might want to raise your feet up onto a little footbed, onto a weight plate, so you might have a little bit extra range into that lift. That's a nice way to work it. You may look at using this more like a warm-up pattern, trying to maybe pre-fatigue some muscles, and you might not use a bar for this. You might use something like dumbbells, kettlebells, or you could even use a rubber band, or you could do this without any weight and body weight to try and make sure that you can feel this movement. If you were to try and practice this at home, you can still get that feeling of this RDL by shooting those hips back, keeping those vertical shins, trying to feel your hamstrings and squeezing your bum tall to the top. As long as you're following those patterns of movement, you can try and load this up in loads of different ways. It's a super movement to try and improve your pulling power in weightlifting. So we have talked about RDLs today, Romanian deadlifts, what they are, what they train, and how you can put them into your training regime. If you've liked this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit us in the comments section with more tips that you'd like to hear around weightlifting and moving some tin around the gym. We've been HUMN, you've been great. Catch you next time.